Adam, we're down here at All City Stadium in Denver covering high school No, not high school football. We were covering CU football today. The Buffs, awesome thing, came down here to do an open practice at the school, or the stadium that's for Denver Public Schools. And I asked Dave Platy, who's been at CU for a long time, has CU ever taken a fall practice off campus? And he said, not that I can recall. So it might be the first time they've ever done it. Pretty cool deal. And there was, I know they sold all the passes, but I would say probably 3,000 to 4,000 people showed up. Would you say?
It was kind of hard to tell because a lot of folks were just kind of hanging around the outside of the outer fence here. It was a good turnout. Had you told me that Colorado would come down for a preseason scrimmage a couple of years ago and would have had this turnout, I wouldn't have believed you. It wasn't a packed house, but was actually pretty short notice. So the fact that folks were able to get out here was really cool. And with there being a concert at Folsom Field this weekend, it made a lot of sense to do something like this. And I like the thought of, even though we can't really run our normal stuff because we can't show opponents anything, that it's going to break up the monotony of preseason camp, because this is when you start to hit that. And then next week you're going to start to get into North Dakota State, and all of a sudden you get guys' attention pretty quick. But so I like this. They might kick us off at any moment. So that's why I'm talking so fast, because they said we better be quick.
Yeah, and frankly, as far as the attendance, it was 6:30 on a Friday, and for people that don't know Denver, I mean, the people are just getting home from work at that time, so I'm not surprised that it wasn't totally full. It's a pretty busy city, so, I thought the turnout was pretty good. As far as what we saw out there, it's hard to tell because, like you said, they're vanilla, but it was just fun to see the guys out there. Shiloh Sanders doing his thing, and especially in the 7-on-7 periods, some really nice passes, connecting with his receivers. And, guys, there were some guys look good. There were some things that didn't look as good. I mean, I think there was probably a few too many sacks, or what would go down as sacks than they want. But I thought there was some good and bad tonight.
Yeah, I thought so as well. Especially I was impressed with the first-string defense. I thought they definitely looked the part out there today. But it's funny because this actually interrupted Coach Prime presser, and now it's interrupting our analysis video.
They can interrupt Coach Prime. They can interrupt us.
Yeah, as Coach Prime said, let them have their moment. No, it was good action out there. Will Shepard turned out today. I should mention, before anybody gets nervous, while Travis Hunter did not participate today, one of the first things Coach Prime said in his media address afterwards was that he's fine. So you don't have to worry about that. But it was cool with Travis Hunter not being in there, seeing Terrell Timmons get some of those reps with the first-team offense. He had a couple catches as well. His emergence as kind of a forgotten guy coming out of spring, just because he was banged up in the spring. We didn't see him a whole lot. That just adds to that depth. And it's crazy how many different options there are at that receiver position. When I was talking to our NC State guy, when he transferred to Colorado, he said this is a really good deep threat, but NC State didn't have a quarterback that was very capable of getting the ball downfield, so it didn't really show itself. So it was fun to see him out there. And Tajay McCoy off the edge, he gets off that line in a hurry.
Yeah. Well, the Buffs do have a quarterback who can throw it deep, and we saw a little bit of that. But, Tajay McCoy looked really good. I thought there was some good play from the corners. Preston Hodge looks really good. He played a lot in the slot tonight. Colton Hood was playing on the corner today. And Coach Prime, I asked about the Hood brothers, and he said both those guys are looking good offensively and defensively. Brandon offensively, Colton defensively. Colton Hood, I think, is pushing for some playing time and perhaps, I don't know about a starting job, but he's pushing for that.
Yeah, and if there is a moment when Travis Hunter needs a breather, it might only happen maybe once or twice this entire season, but to have that extra corner that you can really put out there and trust, that is where they've upgraded, is the depth at that position. You remember last year, they really never figured out that cornerback spot opposite in Travis Hunter. And now, because you bring in Preston Hodge and DJ McKinney and you have Hood as well, now Travis can go inside, outside, and you have depth there. So definitely quite a bit of improvement. Brandon Hood, he's got a second gear when he gets going. And I don't really know what his role is this year. Injuries might dictate that, but he's a guy that folks should be excited about for the future.
And speaking of running back, Charlie Offerdahl started with the first team. Dallin Hayden got some first-team reps as well. Isaiah Auguste with a couple nice runs. But Coach Prime talked glowingly of that group, saying we got a lot of guys in there, but it was Offerdahl and Hayden, and probably not much of a surprise. But I thought they both had some good runs in there tonight.
It seems like they're running 1 and 2 at this point. I think we've got to, at this point, probably expect that Charlie Offerdahl's going to be one of those 2 top backs that Coach Flea talks about wanting in that room to feature, and until it's proven otherwise. I'll tell you though, Augustov I think has got a bright future. I like the way he runs. He's always running forward, getting extra yards after contact. That was something that stood out to me tonight as well.
Yeah. Another thing that stood out, I would say on the negative side, is a backup quarterback. I think, we'll see on that one. I mean, Ryan Staub's been the guy, but didn't have the greatest night. And then, Dominic Ponder, he's got an arm on him. And, I know he's running with the threes a lot of times, but there might be some competition there.
Yeah, I'd like to see what Ponder would do against the first-team defense that Ryan Staub has to go against every day.
Right.
I think that would change things. I agree with you. I think that's maybe a little bit closer of a competition than we thought it was going to be at this point. But I still think Ryan Staub is going to be their backup quarterback going into the season.
Yeah, another thing we saw tonight, Shiloh Sanders still in the yellow jersey, but out there being active and playing. So I think they're just being cautious with him before that season opener. But any other thoughts you have tonight?
Well, with Shiloh, I think you should just put that on him every day unless it's a game day, because just for the sake of your offensive guys, because he's only got one mentality out there when he doesn't have that jersey on. The kickers seem to do pretty well. They actually started out this open practice with the kickers doing a bunch of kicks, and they have Mata, as you would expect, doing some of the shorter yardage situations, and then Feely coming in for some of the longer field goals. And so it'd be nice to see Jace Feely have a bounce back season. Last year was pretty up and down, but he's stuck around. I give him credit for that. A lot of guys, especially in this era, would have bounced, and so that would be a good story if he has a good season. Especially, everybody wants to see those kickoffs going through the end zone.
Right. And one last thing for me is, I asked Coach Prime about when do you solidify that depth chart, and he said right before before kickoff. He wants guys. Hey, I mean, there's nothing. Or I want you guys to keep going, and so they might have. I'm sure that's going to be somewhat solidified, a week out or whatever. But he wants that competition going, and guys. He goes, you never know what's going to happen game week. A guy gets hurt, some guy doesn't play well, and so I thought that was interesting that he's like, hey, right up until game time.
Old school, not an old fool, right?
That's
I mean,
right.
that's old school football.
Yep.
You're a starter until you're not. But you'll get into game planning, and guys will kind of have an idea of where their pecking order is. But as Coach Prime mentioned, there could be an injury, and all of a sudden, so you don't want guys with that mentality that there's the depth chart that's set, obviously.
Yeah. Awesome. Anything else tonight?
I think that's it.
Awesome. Have a safe drive home.
Thank you. You too.